What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Fantasy Alarm TV. I'm your host, Howard Bender. Welcome to 3-Point Play. For those of you just joining us here at Fantasy Alarm TV, 3-Point Play, it's very, very simple. It's a nice little one-on-one debate between, myself and one of the esteemed Fantasy Alarm analysts. Today, got me a little John Impemba here again. What's going on, John? How are you today?
Howard, how you doing? Doing pretty well. I'm ready to, get to it. Last time, I think I had confidence going into it. I think you overtook me a little bit there at the end, but I'm ready to redeem myself this time around.
Yeah, listen, I pulled out all the stops. I was more like a prop comic than anything else in the last one here. No props today, hands free. Let's get it going, guys. If you're just joining us here, the thing is, we sit and debate three specific topics: fantasy sports, reality sports, either one for us there. The only rule here is that you have to make, in order to support your side of the argument, 3 separate points. Okay? We each get a chance to give our 3 points, then we get to tear each other down. I think it's a good place to start here. None other than where we left off, John. Doing our Boston-New York debate, having a little fun with that. NFL future odds came out, and the Patriots, John, your beloved Patriots, 6-1 odd favorites, the best odds to win the Super Bowl here. Should the Patriots be the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl back-to-back, given everything that we know?
What is it that we know here, Howard? I mean, point number one, they're the defending Super Bowl champions. They've won 3 out of, I think, the last 5 Super Bowls, and they still have number 12 on their team. Tom Brady is still the quarterback. Bill Belichick is still the head coach, and those are the 2 most important pieces that everybody needs to be aware of. Everybody's going to talk about the loss of Rob Gronkowski. They've won Super Bowls without Gronkowski. They pretty much did it last year. He was a non-factor during the regular season. He had some big moments in the playoffs. I'll give him that. He had that final drive, against Kansas City, and obviously he had the catch that set up the lone touchdown there in the Super Bowl. But outside of that, Tom Brady got them through the regular season and into the playoffs. They didn't even have home field advantage this year. Everybody thought they blew that, and they still didn't matter. They still made it to the Super Bowl, still won. The fact of the matter is that there's been no changing of the guard yet. Point number 2 is the road to the Super Bowl still goes to New England, the AFC East. None of the teams really got any better. If you think about our biggest competition, the Steelers lost Le'Veon Bell. They lost Antonio Brown. There's some turmoil there. Ben Roethlisberger's another year older. They have to rely on Juju Smith-Schuster and Connor to continue their development. You look at Kansas City now, no Kareem Hunt. They lost him last year, obviously. Tyreek Hill could be suspended for who knows how many games that they have. And we have to assume, I would think, that Patrick Mahomes is going to have some regression. I'm not going to say he can't. He might be able to, but it seems unlikely to replicate the season that he had if he's going to be missing some of those key weapons. Teams will figure out how to stop Travis Kelce, and then we'll see what Patrick Mahomes can do there. They're the number 2 projected Vegas odds to go to the Super Bowl behind New England's Kansas City. I don't really see it. The big team in the AFC that's supposedly going to be a contender this year is the Cleveland Browns. I mean, we're talking about the Cleveland Browns here. So, I mean, yes, they may have added Odell Beckham Jr., but it's still wait to see what they can do there. And point number 3 is, like we said, if we look at the competition here, Kansas City in the AFC, I guess Cleveland, Oakland, we've got Antonio Brown, the Steelers. But even on the other side of things, I mean, the Los Angeles Rams are as good as they were last year. They had a strong defense. They lost defensive players, and Ndamukong Suh's no longer there. You look at the offense, Todd Gurley was all-world until the end of the year. They're not going to have Todd Gurley be the same player. If you look at all the reports that needs to be messed up, how well is their running game going to be? Are we going to trust Jared Goff, who I think was exposed in the Super Bowl there to be, if they're not playing man-on-man defense, he doesn't know what to do. Is McVay going to be up to the challenge to repeat after last year? He seemed a little starstruck there. Did I say that right? McVay's the coach there, or is that wrong? I'm blanking.
For the Rams?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's McVay.
Okay, yeah, whatever reason there's a block there because he's not from New England. So if you remember from the Super Bowl, he was starstruck talking to Bill Belichick on the field, trying to get his autograph basically, before the pregame snaps are going off. So I mean, what is the competition really in the NFL right now? I don't see it. It's going through New England. Those are my 3 points. Of course, the Patriots should be favored to go back to the Super Bowl this year.
All right, well, I'm going to take the other side of this argument and say, what are we doing? Why? I mean, listen, these are not the same Patriots, and they haven't been the same Patriots, and we watched the decline over the last several years. Did they win the Super Bowl last year? Yeah, they did. Absolutely. But to sit there and say that they're just an automatic, it doesn't work for me. Number one, Tom Brady, getting older, dude, 41 years old. I don't care if his macrobiotic diet is working beautiful wonders for his body there. All right. We've seen 4 straight seasons of a statistical decline for Tom Brady. And it's not going to go up. We're not looking at an upward trajectory here. The career is winding down. So Brady, listen, if I prorated the numbers when he got suspended for the 4 games, and he was off pace. He was on pace for that regular decline for him there. So Brady's getting older. The skill set just isn't there. Number 2, his weaponry, not even remotely the same. I don't even have to gush about Gronkowski because I agree with you. I think Gronkowski has been fool's gold for the last couple of years. When he is in the lineup, though, there is a security blanket there. Whether he throws to him or not is irrelevant. The fact that he knows that he's there, just like having Julian Edelman, that's a security blanket. Where does it go beyond that? Like, this is the problem here for the Patriots right now. You can look at Philip Dorsett and say that Philip Dorsett is a rock-solid number 2 guy. You've got Julian Edelman. Who else is there? Eventually, every time James White is on the field, we're going to know exactly what the play is. So, I mean, listen, it's very predictable right now. I've heard some bad reports about N'Keal Harry getting along with Tom Brady and what kind of OTAs and minicamp he was having. We've seen this before with Brady. If he's not trusting in his wideouts and his weaponry, he becomes a little baby on the field there, stomping and kicking. You remember poor Kenbrell Tompkins? Oh, my God, that poor dude dropped a couple of passes during a practice that Brady freaked out on him. He never recovered. He never recovered. Didn't matter if you thought he was any good or not. Dude he was the disaster after there for getting berated by Brady. He just doesn't have the weaponry that he used to have, and that's going to be an issue for him. Number 3, if you make them the favorites, John, well, how in the world are the Patriots going to use no one really believed in us? As their rally cry again. That was their whole thing. It was their whole spiel last year. It's all blown up now because, listen, if they're the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl, well, then that means that Vegas believes in them, and they don't have the ability to be like, oh, well, everybody thought we were going to lose, but look what we did.
I mean, Vegas has them as the favorite every year, Howard. That's just the fact of the matter. They're generally the favorite 1 or 2 every year. The "you won't believe in us" chatter becomes during the middle of the year after their week 2 loss to whoever they're playing, and the Boston negative media that's around here starts the Tom Brady in decline talk. Julian Edelman looks a step slower, yada yada yada, and then becomes December, and then the months go on, and all of a sudden there's the Patriots 12-4, winning the AFC East because there's not a team in that division that really poses any sort of threat to them. They have first round bye. They have
my Jets have Lev Bell, my friend. My Jets have Lev Bell.
It's true. He has a lot of great winning success against New England Patriots over the course of his career. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is, it's just really a numbers game. You can say Tom Brady's been in decline over the last few years. Okay, but I mean, what are his declining numbers? They're still 4,400 yards passing, 30 touchdowns. The suspended year that you talk about there, he only threw 2 interceptions that season in 12 games, had 28 touchdowns. So, I mean, the numbers, though declining, are still very, very good. So,
I'm not saying that they're not very good. They're routine. There's nothing special about it there. I mean, listen, I get that Vegas puts them in there as the odds-on favorite. I just don't believe that they should be considered the odds-on favorite. Well, obviously, I gave you my reasons for it, so there.
Alrighty.
All right, well, there you go. There's debate number 1. Number 2, here we go. We've got Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham, 2 premier wide receivers here, both changing teams. Odell Beckham lands in Cleveland. Antonio Brown heads out west to the Bay Area to join those hapless Oakland Raiders. Now the question is, John, who's going to have the better season here, Odell Beckham or Antonio Brown? I'll start it off here. Antonio Brown for me. That's where I'm going. I know everybody thinks he's a crazy person. Not disputing that. But number one, he's going to see more volume than Odell Beckham will. That's just, I mean, the Browns have a number of other, Jarvis Landry, and you can laugh all you want about Antonio Callaway, but he's another guy who's going to be there. David Njoku is going to get his work. I mean, there are enough targets to go around. They have pass catching backs. They've got regular running backs. It's just, to me, the volume here that Antonio Brown is going to see, because he doesn't have the competing targets there. There's Tyrell Williams, and really, who else? There's really not much to look at there. So over and over again, Antonio Brown. Number two, it's a pass-first offense in Oakland. It's actually more of a run-first offense there in Cleveland, and they're going to be riding that Nick Chubb pony as much as they possibly can. Yes, of course, Baker Mayfield's going to pass the ball, but that's not how they want to start everything off. That's not how Freddie Kitchens wants this offense run. He wants it to be run first. So for Antonio Brown, a pass first offense, listen, if Derek Carr is going to chuck the ball around the field 50 times a game, which is, what Gruden likes to do anyway, gimme. Number three, gets better separation. He's more physical than Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham defensive backs get into his head all the time. Dude's a crybaby. He's a head case. I'm not saying that Antonio Brown isn't, but Antonio Brown conducts himself a little more of a badass and less of a puss on the field than Odell Beckham does. So when Brown can get physical when he wants to, and when he's got the speed to get away from the defenders, I think he's got a better shot at that than Odell Beckham here. I say more targets, more yards, more touchdowns, more AB.
I mean, you made a lot of your points, which would be my number one point, and that is, where exactly is Antonio Brown's headspace right now? The man rocked a golden mustache for half the offseason this year. He held out, demanded trades, was traded to Buffalo for about 8 hours and wasn't traded to Buffalo, stomped his feet, complained. Is he into football, or is he into his own brand right now? Wasn't there reports that he had an own personal sideline cameraman for himself to record and take images to work on his Instagram and his social media for him to get all these? What is Antonio Brown's plan here? Is it any shock that now he goes to the Raiders and they're going to be a Hard Knocks team? Is he going to be mucking up for the camera while they're recording their training camp this year? Is he going to be working on getting in rhythm with Derek Carr, who, guess what? Derek Carr, not Ben Roethlisberger. Not nearly as good of a passer. We've seen receivers leave. Amari Cooper, perfect example last year, was basically droppable in fantasy. He goes to Dallas, who is Dak Prescott, who we don't think is a great quarterback either, and basically becomes, a number one fantasy stud. Are we really going to trust that all of a sudden Derek Carr is going to be the guy that's going to be getting Antonio Brown the volume numbers that we're looking for here, when he hasn't been a good fantasy quarterback pretty much since he's entered the league? There's been a lot of hype around Derek Carr being that next great thing, but we haven't seen anything from him to lead us to believe to that. Number two, you mentioned that they're a pass-first offense. They did use a first-round pick on Josh Jacobs, who is a pretty studly running back there, and I believe, they do want to run the football. You think they had one of the best offensive lines a few years ago to run the football there when they had Marshawn Lynch. They have Josh Jacobs there now to run the football. You're giving me some squirrely eyes. They did have a very good running offensive line to run the football behind a couple of years ago, according to Pro Football Focus. So, I mean, you look at John Gruden drafting a running back in the first round there, you have to believe that they're going to at least give him the volume. They're not going to all of a sudden waste the pick to not give him the football. And number three, for me, again, it really depends on, we have Odell Beckham Jr. going to a new team where, as we've talked about, everybody's sort of hyping up the Browns here. Baker Mayfield had arguably probably a better overall season than Derek Carr had in the 13 games that he played leading that team. You talk about the volume going to be there because he has to compete with Jarvis Landry. I think Jarvis Landry understands what the offense is going to be, and I think that offense is going to be more pass-heavy. I think they're both going to be enough to share the targets. They were teammates in college. For me, I think Odell Beckham is just in a better overall situation. He seems more focused in football. The team is, I feel like, going to be less of a distraction than what's going to be going on in Oakland. So for me, I'm going with Odell Beckham Jr. being the better fantasy option this year.
I think the fact that you needed 2 points to cut down the Raiders and Antonio Brown, and then your 1 point for Odell Beckham was he's just in a better situation.
Yeah.
Ah, man, come on. I mean, listen, to me, Baker Mayfield's as unproven as Derek Carr. And yeah, we're hyping this situation up here, but again, Odell Beckham's going from one guy to from a guy who he was used to throwing all the time, and in Eli, and love or hate Eli, it doesn't matter. Baker Mayfield is still new ground, new territory here.
Same situation for AB though. Same situation for AB.
Sure, same situation for AB, but AB is just to me. If you want to talk who's in the better situation, I think that when you look at the fact that that AB is going to have more targets right off the bat, I think that's a huge thing. If he does get all the red zone looks, again, you look at the Browns and they've got the ability to really spread the ball around. Listen, I'm not saying that Odell Beckham Jr. isn't going to be a wide receiver one. Mm-hmm. But to me, I'm going to push him back a little bit versus Antonio Brown, who really just has no other competition. I like Tyrell Williams. I really do. I think that he's a good, solid guy.
It's a downfield threat, Tyrell Williams.
Of course he's a downfield threat. So, I think that that's, good for them, because maybe then that helps keep the safety from always having to come over the top on Antonio Brown. So
still going to double AB. Do you feel that teams would be more apt to double Odell Beckham Jr. knowing that there's Jarvis Landry there, or double AB and let Tyrell Williams just run fly patterns down the field?
I think it's even, really. I really do. I've seen Jarvis Landry work with Baker Mayfield. I've seen Jarvis Landry drop a ridiculous number of passes. He's not the same guy he was with Tannehill. Let's face facts. Tannehill had and the backups there. Obviously, a softer touch for him, Baker Mayfield, and he just couldn't get onto the same page ever. How frustrating was it to be a Jarvis Landry owner?
It was, for sure. Definitely, as an owner of him last year, I agree with you. I'll say this final point here. You made the point that he's going from Eli Manning, something he's comfortable with, and I brought up they're both going to the same situation. Mm-hmm. What quarterback would you rather have throwing you the football? Would you rather have Baker Mayfield, or would you rather have Derek Carr? Compared to where they were coming from. You have Big Ben going to Derek Carr, you have Eli Manning going to Baker Mayfield. Who do you think is in the better situation making those switches? Because to me, it's pretty clear, in my opinion. It's pretty clear that Baker Mayfield is an upgrade over Eli. Derek Carr.
I mean, he's definitely an upgrade over Eli. I'm not gonna, Eli's been on the downturn there, but I'm also thinking about the fact that Browns are going to be a competitive team, right? You expect them to be. You expect them to. Their defense is solid. They've built that up as well. Are they going to need to throw as often as we saw them last year when they were losing games? If Vegas has them as a 9-win total here, they're going to be in a lot of these games. And the question is meanwhile Oakland, to me, that's a team that their defense is blah. Yeah. That's a team. That's a team that's going to be throwing hard regularly.
Fair enough. I'll give you that.
All right. Well, there you go, guys. AB or OBJ, hit us up on Twitter at JMPemba777. I'm at RotoBuzzGuy. You can also hit us up at Fantasy Alarm. Last one. Here we go. Head-to-head fantasy football, seasonal fantasy football versus best ball. Everybody's got their preferences here. John, do you prefer best ball? You prefer like your regular good old-fashioned seasonal fantasy football?
Yeah, well, Howard, for me, and I think everybody sort of agrees with this, the best part of playing fantasy is the draft. A lot of us play DFS now because we love the thrill of making lineups and watching them happen and not have to worry about anything. So point number one is best ball, all you do is draft. You can do, and then you draft, you set it, forget it, and that's just that. You got to just put it back and you just monitor your team. After that, you can draft as many all these leagues as you want because it's not as time consuming. You don't have to worry about, oh man, I have 14 leagues and I have to pay attention to all these things. Like, nope, you just draft, let it play out. It's as simple as that. Number two for me, as I said, there's no worrying about setting your lineups. There's no worrying about your fab bids and free agency and, oh no, this guy got hurt. Now where am I? And can I pick up the backup? Do I have nope. You don't have to worry about any of it. You just sit on your couch on Sunday, you watch football, and what happens happens. That's just it for best ball. There's no scrambling around on Mondays or Sunday nights or Tuesdays to get all your picks in. And number 3 for me is there's no league drama. I don't know about you. I'm in leagues where guys make unfair trades. They're complaining. People are bitching to the commissioner, whining to you on Twitter about, was this trade fair and all these things. You don't have to worry about it in a best ball draft. Again, there's no moves to be made. You just draft the best team possible. You let it play itself out. So for stress-free fantasy football, you get to do the best part of it, which is draft. And that's it, Howard. You're yawning over there. I can't tell if that's because you're on, 38 hours of no sleep, or if, you're just bored by the topic. It seems like obviously you're fanning towards head-to-head, in-season league. So go for it. Tell me why I am wrong, Howard.
Best ball blows. Best ball blows. Listen, it doesn't. It's not fantasy football to me. It really isn't. Listen, yes, you draft and that's it. You just there's no. All right, here we go. Number 1, more in-season control of whether you win or lose. Fact. Okay, you can have a bad draft. You can you can get injuries on your team, and you have the ability to fix it. Okay, I've patched together teams, and I've won Super Bowl championships on patchwork teams here because you play the waiver wire and you can, and you work that way. Last year, you were sitting there, you were doing your best ball drafts. Everybody's like, oh, Jerick McKinnon. No. Boom. Tears his ACL. He's gone for the entire season. So's your best ball team. Bye-bye. You just lost a second-round pick. In regular seasonal fantasy football, if you lose a high-end pick, you can pick somebody else up. You can fix that problem. Best ball, sorry, dude. You get injuries, you're done. You're toast. It's a mess. You get no sense of there's no recovery. Doesn't matter. Number 2, there's less luck involved because you are working your team. Listen, you could say that it's about knowledge of players when you're doing your fantasy drafts for best ball there. And you're like, oh, okay, I guess I'll take Alex Madison and maybe see if Dalvin Cook hurts himself. Yeah, whatever. Like, you draft your teams. You can get lucky, you can get unlucky. You can't fix it though. Like, that's the thing. If you get lucky, well then great. That's super great. That's super fun. If you don't, then you're out of it. I mean, there's no fun for that. Second, then third of all, this is the whole point. I don't care. Fantasy football, it's about talking smack, dude. It's always about talking about it. This is a game that we're playing, and everybody forgets that. All the dipshits on Twitter, they're so moronic sometimes with how they freak out about stuff. This is a game we are playing against, and I don't care if you pony up $50, $100, $1,000. Okay, if you're risking that much on fantasy football and you're going to get all pissy about it, or your commissioner's going to cheat the league or whatever, then you shouldn't even be playing that for those kind of stakes. If the money is that the be all end all for you, you shouldn't be playing. This should be remembering that this is fun. This is about making fun of your buddies. Why? Look at the show The League, how crazy successful that show was. Why? Because they showed you that the Fantasy Football League was all about the smack talk. And I'm sorry, but really, I'm not going to call you up in week 10 and be like, hey, John, I'll bet you my 30 guys that I drafted 3 months ago are going to beat your 30 guys. Like, what is that? It's stupid. It's moronic. There's no interaction at all. I could list 1,000,000 points here as to why you don't want to play. You can't. You don't check on your team. You don't care. Every best ball league that I've done, all right, or that I did in years past here, I didn't even look to see what my team was doing until it was like week 14 of the regular season, because it doesn't matter. You might as well not even play. Who cares? What are you going to look at your team in week 5 and be like, oh, sick, man, my team's doing real well, blah, blah. You can't do anything about it, and they can all get hit by a bus the next day, and then where are you now for week 6 and 7? Nowheresville. So forget best ball, dude. Stick to seasonal.
The thing is, it's actually funny that you bring up week 10 here, because I just had to go back and check real quick on something. Do you think that in week 10 you would have started Traquan Smith in your season-long head-to-head fantasy football league, or would he have probably been on your bench? Odds are
I don't know. I think I not only did I start him in week 10, but I think I played him in DFS in week 10. And isn't that the week that he did really well?
The majority of people are likely not playing him, considering he didn't have a catch the week before. He had just 2 catches the week before that. Probably on your bench for his 10-catch, 157-yard touchdown performance.
Oh, I used them.
You used them.
I used them. I told everybody to use them.
Majority likely did not use him coming off that late in the season. You can't take that risk, Howard. Week 10 in a fantasy football, that's prime almost playoff weeks coming up. In best ball, you get those points. You don't have to worry about it because it's your best players. That's just
it's like 9-ball, man. It's like this like abbreviated game.
There's deeper rosters that allow you to draft the handcuffs, draft the depth that you need to take into account for the injuries that are likely to occur.
I don't know about that, dude. 20 rounds is not a whole very deep roster, you know?
It's deep enough. There's plenty of depth that you
not if you gotta go 3 quarterbacks, 2 defenses, 2 kickers, and two or 3 tight ends. Well, then all of a sudden there's really not a whole lot of depth there.
There are different conversations to be had about how many of which position you should be drafting in a best ball league, I guess we'll say. You know, there's strategy to be had into drafting, as there is strategy to be had into drafting seasonal. So you don't have to pigeonhole me to 3 defenses and 3 quarterbacks here for the argument. You know, so there's definitely
yes, I do.
Yeah, there's definitely ways to get around drafting in best ball and to be successful. But the fact, as I said, there are a number of weeks where people have guys on your bench. You're sitting there kicking the stones there, being, oh man, he's on my bench. He had 3 touchdowns. Well, you get those points in best ball because you were smart enough to draft them.
You get to be that guy who said, you know what? I started Traquan Smith. I was listening to Bender on the Fantasy Alarm Show, and he was like, this is the week you want Traquan Smith, and there it goes. You look like a little genius there. I mean, listen, I get it. For lazy people, too chicken to set their own lineups because they're afraid they're going to make a mistake. These are the same people who are like, oh, I don't know, man. If I got this pick, should I take Saquon Barkley or Ezekiel Elliott? Like, they're splitting hairs here. They can't take it. They're too chicken to set their lives. You know why? Because there's no accountability. Everybody wants to blame the game. Oh, you know what? Oh man, I didn't. If I didn't have to set my lineup and make that decision, well, then I would have won. I mean, come on, man. There you go. That's another knock on society, not just a fantasy game here. No accountability.
That's a different topic for another day. I would agree with you that there's no accountability. There's no personal responsibility in today's society for sure. But that's why we have best ball, right? So nobody has to take that accountability. You're accountable for the team you draft, and after that, it's all in the win. So
it is all in the win. So please, people, stop messaging me on Twitter asking me to look at your best ball draft and tell you what I think. I don't rate best ball drafts, and I certainly ain't rating them here in June. That's going to do it for us here at 3 Point Play. John, always a pleasure, man. Thanks so much for joining me today. Folks, thanks for tuning in to Fantasy Alarm TV. This has been 3 Point Play. I'm Howard Bender. We'll catch you next time.